Hey, everybody. I'm going to wait for just a second until people start joining in. I'm going to kind of just as a heads up, I'm going to be using this as a podcast too. So we'll call it a live podcast, if you will. But I'm going to kind of format it a little bit differently. So just bear with me on it. Essentially, what's going to happen is that I'm going to open it up where I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions on everything that happened. And then we will have a lot of comments. I've already seen a tremendous amount of comments. We'll try to get to all of those too, and kind of like segment it out, essentially, is what we're going to be looking at. So, but yeah, we'll start with my opinions on everything, and then we'll go into all of your opinions on everything, and then we'll start to dive into maybe the future a little bit and see kind of what can happen. So, but anyways, we're going to go ahead and knock this out. So why not? Let's go ahead and do it here. But either way. All right, let's get started. So hang on to your butts because this is the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, Razorback Devotional.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. So this is a live podcast, if you want to call it that, on StreamYard that we're doing, or on YouTube, I should say, via StreamYard. And so I'm appreciating everybody listening and watching in as we're going to go through this. And again, get to your comments here in just a second and your reactions, but I wanted to kick it off with my reactions too. So I've had a night to sleep on it, had almost a full day to kind of react as I was there on Saturday night in Fayetteville at the Razorback Stadium. I had a chance to check out all the atmosphere, which first off, we'll get into setting it. We'll get to the stuff that's a problem, and then we'll get to the ending of it too, or at least from my point of view, of what could possibly be some reasons to be optimistic, which I know nobody really wants to hear right now. But yeah, y'all hit that like button. As Glenn down there says, hit that like button for me. But let's just start it off. That was horrible. That was a bad loss. And, I have thought about the different ways that I could approach this. Or I think it was actually last week on the podcast. We talked about what happens if Arkansas loses, which got a tremendous amount of watches and listens, which I'm very appreciative of. But we talked about what happens if Arkansas loses. It was a possibility, and it ended up being the reality. And one of the things that I felt like would happen if Arkansas lost this game against BYU is that people would start to jump ship. People would start to they're over it. They're done. They're moving on. They're just done being a Sam Pittman. They're done with the team. They're done with the season. Season's over. And I know that that's how people would react. And I'm not saying you are wrong. But I am saying that not everyone's going to approach it a little bit differently. So let's just talk about this and get into how I feel about it. So it's one thing to lose a game because the other team just beat you. Kudos to, for sure, BYU and their team and their coaching staff. They played great. They were great defensively at times. They had a really great game plan. They handled the atmosphere very well, and they're very well coached. So kudos to them. They deserve full credit in this game and getting this victory. But the problem is with Arkansas and what they are, at least what they're attempting to do and what they're trying to do is something that I feel like it's almost the opposite of what we're seeing them do, if that makes sense. I see it as, okay, you're a team that is supposed to be really good at running the ball. And I will even admit, in this game, it seemed like it was better than what we saw in the first couple of games. And I'm going to go through the stats here, too. Our Arkansas averaged 4.5 yards a carry in this game, which is a much bigger improvement than what we saw in the first couple of games. You had A.J. Green go for 86 yards, Rashad Dubinion go 47 yards. KJ got 21 yards net. Dominic Johnson got 14 yards, only on 2 carries. But overall, it was a better effort on that front. But even though he got total 177 yards rushing, you had 247 yards passing from KJ. And honestly, I thought the defense played pretty well. I thought so overall. But that offensive line, man, that's a thing that is just you can't have it. You can't have the type of effort there and that type of offensive line play and expect to win in the SEC. Plain and simple. That's not an SEC caliber offense, or offensive lineman. I know it's so cliche to say, but it's so true that Arkansas has a quarterback in KJ. They have wide receivers, which I know that they had some drops, and we're going to talk about that. They had some drops, but they have those guys. Like, they have things and reasons to be pretty great in that front. The tight ends, I think, are better. I think Luke is a phenomenal wide receiving tight end. I think in this game he had 4 catches. He was targeted 6 times for 78 yards and a touchdown. Like, he did really well, and he is a good tight end. Good wide receivers, good running backs, even the Rockets out. They got all the pieces, but none of that matters if you don't have an offensive line that can't do anything about it. None of it matters if you don't have an offensive line that is able to block for KJ and protect KJ Jefferson. It doesn't matter if they can't be consistent when it comes to their run blocking. Like, it just doesn't. None of that matters. So watching this, especially there in real time, it's so frustrating because no matter what, if you don't have a good offensive line, it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. Doesn't matter how good your wide receivers are, tight ends, all of that. Does not matter if you can't block. If you can't be consistent, if you can't block, none of it matters. And that's what happened in this game. And it wasn't even just like the blocking that was problematic. The amount of dadgum penalties in this game was absurd. 14 penalties for 125 yards. I think it was 5 penalties on the final drive. That was just, I wanted to pull my hair out. Because I don't mind. Okay, here, I'm going to put it this way. I don't like losing. Nobody likes losing. You don't like losing, right? None of us do. But I can accept losing a little bit better if it means that just 2 teams went after it, 2 teams went back and forth, 2 teams gave it their all, 2 teams played well, but just 1 team made a couple more plays, and that's it. Like, I don't like that, but I'll accept it. What I can't accept is when you're at home in game 3, night game, atmosphere's there, you know it's a big game, you know it's a big deal, and you have double the amount of penalties as the road team. Like, you have double the amount of penalties as the road team in that atmosphere. Meanwhile, you had 7 penalties for 45 yards. Arkansas had 14 penalties for 125 yards. You just cannot have that. And if you look at all on the other side of this too, now this is just what also just blows my balls off. You held BYU to 281 yards total offense. 281 yards total offense, and they scored 38 points. Why is that? How did that happen, right? What's the key there? Like, they only averaged 2.5 yards a rush. They passed for 204 yards. Like, this was not a defensive problem, folks. This was not a defensive problem. This was a problem with just the overall toughness and cohesion of a team offensively that, for whatever reason, can't figure out how to do the right things at the right time. Like the 4th down call on 4th and 1, stop doing it. Stop doing it. If you're not in field goal range, punt it. You can't get it. What is this, 3 straight? Or at least 3, I believe. At least 2 that I know. 4th down and shorts that you go for and you get stuffed. Stop doing it. And you keep doing it in shotgun. Stop. Like, you just, none of that makes sense. That should never be a thing that actually happens. That's the type of stuff that can change an entire game and then change the entire momentum. Because the way that the game started, where you had a huge play by A.J. Green on the rushing attack when Arkansas got the ball first. Got a 55-yard touchdown to the house. Boom. Man, that was great. And then you hold them to 3 and out, and then they punt it to you. And then Isaac TeSlaa, boom, returns it for a touchdown. 88 yards to the house, 14-0, like 3 minutes into the game, flying high. And what happened? Well, you choke. Like it's almost like you let the foot off the gas. That's the type of thing that you wanted to have. That's the dream start that you would have loved to have had. And it just didn't happen. You had some bad plays. They get the ball back. They score a touchdown. And you're able to get another touchdown too. And you're going into halftime up 24-21. Like it looks like things are still like all right. Like, okay, you gave some points, but then you're going to have a chance to get back and do some things in the second half. And then in the second half, you start off strong once again. You hold them to a punt. You drive down the field, and you get a touchdown. A.J. Green goes in for 7 yards, and now you're up 10 points. You're up 10 points, 31-21, with 11 minutes to go in the third quarter. And then you don't score again. Like that to me is also one of the most disappointing things, is that you went from 14 points in the first quarter, 10 points in the second quarter, 7 points in the third quarter, and 0 in the fourth at home. Cannot happen. The penalties, the lack of finishing off drives, the bad punts, which Max Fletcher also he had a few good punts, but having a 10-yard punt, it's like, dude, I think the other one was like 26 yards, something like that. You're not going to beat anybody that way. You're not going to beat anybody with that amount of penalties, and you're not going to beat anybody with having bad punts like that, giving them opportunities, because they will take advantage of it, which they did. You can't have it to where you're having issues of trying just to go downfield and, you're going for 4th down and 1. You have KJ Jefferson lining up in shotgun, and he gets stuffed. These are the things that you cannot have. And I know that there's a lot of new players on this team, but folks, I ain't buying that stuff. This is not the type of stuff that new players have to deal with. This is the type of stuff where you have dudes. You have dudes that are seniors, that are juniors, that are upperclassmen. These are the ones that should be not having a bunch of penalties in these games. Like that should not be the case. You should not be having the penalties. You should not be having the offensive line having the issues with the penalties. Final drive having 5 penalties. When you're trying to tie the game up, you have 5 penalties. It cannot happen. No. I'm not off of the Sam Pittman train. I'm not saying he needs to be fired. There's a lot of people that are going to say that. People are saying it in the comments already on this live stream. That's fine. That's your opinion. You can have it. I'm not to that point yet. You're 3 games in. This is where the optimistic take can come into play. If you want some sort of some optimism, here you go. The optimism is that you still have a long season ahead of you, and that the rest of the SECs, particularly the SEC West, doesn't look good, or at least doesn't look like there's just the 2014 SEC West. Every team looks beatable right now. I know LSU beat Mississippi State pretty handedly, and you got them next on the road. And I'm not going to pick Arkansas to win that game. But, can you beat A&M? Can you beat Ole Miss? Can you beat Alabama? Alabama looks terrible. They don't even have a quarterback. Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, they just beat Tennessee. Missouri, who's good? I don't know who's good. But if you're trying to find some sort of silver lining and some sort of optimism, I would suggest and I would recommend that. That just look to maybe that this is a bounce back thing. Maybe it can get fixed. Like the penalties part of it can be fixed. The bad decision making on 4th down calls can be fixed. That stuff you can. The only thing that really I'm looking at that's hard to say, oh, this can be fixed, is the offensive line issues. And I'm sorry, this is where I'm going to come into place. And I'm a big Sam Pittman fan. I've always been a Sam Pittman fan, and honestly, I like the guy, and I think that he's gotten Arkansas to a point to where he brought them out of the absolute epitome of terribleness in football and brought them into something where it's actually competitive. But I'm sorry, there is zero excuse for the offensive line. They had to move Brady Latham over because Devin Manuel's dealing with injury. Okay, that sucks. That's fine, but there's zero reason in year 4 for you to not have depth at the offensive line when you're the offensive line guy. Like, you're the dude. How is that possible? How's that possible? It's like Lincoln Riley having bad quarterback play. Like, there's zero excuse for that. Like, that's your thing. It's like Bobby Petrino not having a somewhat effective offense. Like, there's zero reason for that to be the case. And the offensive line, again, I know that there's a lot of time where they can get better and maybe get a little healthier. But how am I supposed to believe that the guy who's the offensive line dude in Sam Pittman, how am I supposed to have a lot of faith that, like, in year 4, the offensive line, in my opinion, and pretty much has gotten worse each year? That doesn't make any sense. It's a frustrating game, and I hate to, maybe I'm just recency bias, but to me, this is the worst loss in Sam Pittman's era at Arkansas. Like, I thought what Liberty was bad last year, and it was bad. Don't get me wrong. But last year against Liberty, at least there was something that was like, okay, well, hey, KJ was not healthy whatsoever. KJ wasn't healthy whatsoever. And, you know, again, it wasn't great, but there was at least something you could point to, say, hey, if this would have happened, it would have been different. This isn't the case. Rocket Sanders, it's great that he's a great player, and I can't wait to have him back. Looks like he's going to be back against LSU. But not having Rocket Sanders is not an excuse to lose this game the way they did. Zero excuse. Zero excuse, especially with the way you started. Cannot happen, should not happen, should not ever happen again. So, anyways, we'll get to your comments. Those are my thoughts and opinions. I'll end with this, and then we'll get to all of y'all's comments, and we'll react to that too. So get ready for that. But I'll end this segment with this. I still believe that Sam Pittman is a good coach in a lot of ways. But I also believe that there are things about him and how he's had to learn on the go that has been struggling. Like, I get it. I get it. But this is the type of stuff I don't want to see in year 4. I don't want Sam Pittman fired right now. Let's see what happens. Let's see what this team's made of, see what they can do. But this is, to me, an unacceptable loss. Not just that they lost, but how they lost. It's unacceptable in year 4. This, you know, time's wasted. Because right now, your 4 next games, we all know, at LSU, A&M and Arlington, at Ole Miss, and at Alabama. Right now, those 4 teams are all better than Arkansas. They're all better than Arkansas. They look better than Arkansas. They're going to be favored against Arkansas. They are better. So until something changes, you could be looking at 2-5. I don't know if it'll change, but Lord have mercy, it needs to. Because this has just been atrocious, absolutely atrocious, what we've had to see. So, yeah, we'll get to you guys' comments and everything, so get those ready here in just a second. But first, folks, I got to tell you about BetterHelp, which has been a great partnership here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. And to be honest, a lot of you Razorback fans out there, you might need someone to talk to after seeing some of the games so far this year, especially this past loss. Because, listen, there's times always in our life where we're stressed, we're concerned, we're upset with things, but it's always about maybe trying to find ways to get out of it, trying to be better from it, trying to make our lives better as well. And that's what BetterHelp is going to be for you. I know I've benefited from things where it's ever talking to people, and maybe this can be great therapy for you itself. It's just being able to air it out and air your grievances with the Razorbacks right now. But if you do need help, though, and if it's something to where you do need somebody to talk to, that's what BetterHelp is going to be for you. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with the licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnCollege.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so continuing on, I want to get to y'all's thoughts and, just see what some of you think. And I won't be able to read all of the comments. I'll try to read some of the highlights because some of you are really already mean, and that's what I fully expected. But we'll work through this. But like this one comes from Brand. He says Hog season is over. I mean, I feel there's a lot of people that feel that same way. I'm not going to go to that point just yet that the Hogs season is over, but you can't have this continuing like that type of game ever happen again. You're not going to beat anybody in the SEC with a game like that. You're just not going to do it. See, Caden says the West is wide open. Our defense is almost unrecognizably better from last year, and this loss hurts bad. 8th most packed stadium in Razorback history, and Pitt and Enos' play calling cost them the game. Yeah, first off, the crowd was awesome. The crowd was absolutely awesome. Like they brought it. I was very pleased with the atmosphere. I was very pleased with everybody that was there, and enjoying it. And the tailgating was great. The weather was perfect. You could not ask for anything more. But like the way it started, that's what just blows my mind. The way that game started, I was like, oh, this could have like an Ole Miss last year type of feel where you just knock them on their butts to begin and you never look back. That did not happen at all. But the atmosphere was definitely there. Let's see. Mark says, is Wiggins or someone else a viable option at center while moving Latham back to guard? The snaps have been subsequent timing. It seemed like they have been off through all 3 games. Yeah. Listen, that's the thing where like Latham had one of the worst games he's ever had as a Razorback, and he's a captain, and you expect more, but not making excuses for him. But when moving positions like that, he shouldn't ever have to be in that situation. I think is my point. You shouldn't have to move. You should just have somebody ready. You should have more depth at offensive line. Like with the transfer portal and with the offensive line coach that Sam Pittman is, and Cody Kennedy, I know that people are down on him too, but there's no reason for you to not have viable offensive linemen. Too deep. Zero excuse for that not to be the case. Zero excuse. Let's see. Eli says, you can be a Pittman fan, but also not like where it's headed. He's absolutely done a great job, but here we are, It doesn't negate what he's done. Exactly. That's a great comment, Eli. Like, I am not someone who's, again, thinking that Sam Pittman needs to be fired. Like, because I think that I know that this is year 4 and we're all upset, rightfully so. You're justified to be upset, but let's put it in perspective. I mean, he won 3 SEC games his first year. He won 4 the year after. He won 3 last year. Not saying it's been the greatest of all time, but to act like he's not done anything and that he's been bad. Yeah, that's not that. I think that's unfair to him and unfair to like the realistic reality of what Sam Pittman has done here. Matt says, just wait until Thursday or wait till Tuesday when it comes out that KG was hurt this weekend. Let's hope that's not the case. Don't need any players hurt. I mean, we're going to find out what this team's about. Are they going to just roll over and die, or are they going to come out against it? Because I'm not expecting them to beat LSU, but if they get like blown out to LSU, like Mississippi State lost to LSU, then you might be losing them pretty quick. Jim says, feels like coaches are obsessed with analytics to the point where unnecessary chances are being taken in pointless situations. Yeah, I'm not someone who knows all the analytics. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But my thing is, if you have something that's not working and it doesn't work in any game, then stop freaking doing it. That's my analytics. How about that for analytics? Take that for data. I forgot which coach said that. And it was kind of like the same thing with Kendall Briles a couple of years ago. Yeah, he kept running this wide receiver pass, like Traylon Burks and everything, and it didn't work one single time. And he kept doing it. I'm like, it's done, dude. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Stop doing it. Move on to something else. Kind of feel the same way now. If you're at around midfield or whatever, and it's 4th and 1, and I mean every situation's different, but there's zero excuse for you to go out there and just be like, yeah, well, what the analytics say. No, I don't care what the analytics say, because the analytics that's been said ain't been working for you. So the analytics ain't working for you. Do something different. Michael says they need to air it out and throw it to Satania deep more. Yeah, that's another criticism that I have. I don't understand. Like, you see the explosiveness that Isaiah Satania uses on punts and did in this game and has really all season long. How are you not getting him the ball more? How are you not finding ways to get him involved in the offense more? He finished with, let's see, he had 1 target, 1 catch for 5 yards. How? How? And like Andrew Armstrong was great. Like he had targeted 9 times and caught all 9. Luke had 6 targets for 4 and had 4 catches. Tesla 8 targets for 4 catches. Jaden Wilson had a bad drop. Broden had a bad drop. Satania, that's inexcusable. He's like, I think Trey Biddy put it best on his walk and talk, which I always love his walk and talks. He was discussing, like saying that Sam Pittman talked about needing more wide receiver to be blockers. And Trey Biddy says like they need blockers for Isaiah Satania. Like that's 100% true. I have never understood it. If I got a stallion in the horse barn, I'm not leaving it in there. I'm going to find ways to get it out there and to get it going. And that's what it reminds me of. Is just like he's that good. He's that explosive. Get him the ball. Get him the ball. I don't care if it's screens. I don't care if it's going deep. Keep him honest. Give him the ball. That's all I'm saying. Thomas says the SEC West is still wide open. Yeah, it is wide open, but I don't know if it's wide open for Arkansas. Not the way that they played. But nobody has. Everyone's had bad games this year, but just Arkansas hasn't had a good game. Like even Western Carolina was solid, but I wouldn't call it a good game. I wouldn't say it was awesome, but it's whatever. Thomas says we're going to pick apart LSU. Well, okay, Thomas, I love the optimism there. Mark says new strength coach to get stronger, but we are weaker. New OC, take a step up in offense, but steps backward. Yeah, I didn't think the play calling was bad. I feel like sometimes, and I get accused, or at least accused of this and guilty of this as well. But sometimes I feel like we make such a big deal about play calling. A lot of times it's not just about play calling; it's about the execution of the plays. And so the only criticism I had with any sort of play calling, for the most part, was when you're lining up in shotgun on 4th and short. But overall, I feel like if the problems that Arkansas had in this game, the offensive coordinator and the play calling was very low on the list. See, Vids from me says, why is Davinian getting more carries than AJ when AJ was obviously our best back? Yeah, I thought that maybe there was something going on with him. Like maybe he got injured. Maybe there's something to that because he was averaging almost a first down a carry. He had 9 carries for 86 yards. Granted, like 55 yards helps that average, but still. Dominic Johnson had 2 carries for 14 yards. That's 7 yards a pop. And Davinian, no offense, but he had 13 carries. Him and KJ had the most, and he was averaging 3.6 yards a carry. Yeah, I don't like that. But how does Arkansas not get a yard in that situation? Don't know. That's the problem. If you can't get a yard against BYU, like with KJ Jefferson, with all of that, that's problematic. Aaron says terrible officials calling some bad calls and no calls as well. Yeah, that's again, I wasn't happy with some of the officiating at times. I thought that pass interference call against Luke Haz was offensive pass interference was trash. I thought it was absolute trash. But again, this is not a game that's on the refs. I don't think so, at least. Do you think Jacoby Criswell would be better at evading the pocket than KJ since the O-line is failing? No, I don't. Like if KJ's healthy, KJ's your guy. Keep playing KJ. Let's do that. Caden says fire Enos and hire Petrino. Funny one. Good. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go well. Christopher says Satania, Haz, and Green should all be on the field at once. Kennedy needs to be fired. We fired a strength coach because the line was getting pushed around. It's the same this year. Again, I don't know. I don't think you should fire anybody right now. I don't think Cody Kennedy should be fired right now. Like I don't think that's good. I don't think that's the way you want to do it. But there's no doubt that it's bad. And there's no doubt that Cody Kennedy is, when there's a glaring issue and it's his position group, that's where the blame is going to be thrown at. So yeah, you got to do something about it. Caden says, "Where's the merch?" I'm working on it. I'm working on the merch for Locked On Razorbacks. Don't you worry. We almost got I think we got up to 200 watchers. So hey, appreciate you guys coming in and chatting it up. And then everyone's asking like, how is this changing? William's even asking, how has the blocking scheme changed with the new OC? I mean, has it changed enough to give the problems that it's giving? I don't think so. I don't think that that's enough to be problematic. You should be able to block. Like, that's it. You should be able to block. I don't care about schemes. That's what spring practice is for. It's what fall camp's for. Figure those things out. Like, there's zero excuse for that. Let's see. Landon says Arkansas has to stop shooting themselves in the foot in critical moments. 14 penalties can't win games. I agree. And then BKJ Bearcat says, well, it's fishery basketball season. What are your thoughts on the upcoming season? Yeah, I saw the amount of people that were tweeting at me and commenting when I was leaving the game. Like, at least basketball season's here. It's like, yeah, well, that's about right. That's about right. So I get it, but I'm not. It's early in the season. Who knows? I never want to rule out anything, but certainly ain't looking good. That's for sure. We'll do another segment, folks, so stay with us. I know, again, we're doing this as a podcast format and a live stream format at the same time, so if it sounds different, that's the case why. But we'll get to more of your comments, so keep those comments coming. We'll read them on the other side and also get into some of the other things about where Arkansas State's and also what I think is going to end up happening the rest of the way here in just a second. But first, folks, I got to tell you about Markel Insurance. From Fayetteville to El Dorado and everywhere in between, Markel has been helping the Arkansas small business community for over 30 years. Markel is a global specialty insurer with a truly people-first approach. And to them, insurance is more than just a piece of paper. It's a promise to help people get back on their feet. We spend a third of our lives working, right, which is a long time. And when we're working that long, you can work hard to build your business, but it's got to be very important to you to make sure that you and your employees have the right insurance coverage. Whether you're new to the business or celebrating your 25th year anniversary, whether you have one employee or 1,000 employees, Markel aims to understand your workers' compensation insurance needs. Find a local independent agent, get free workers' compensation insurance quote today at markelinsurance.com/locked-on. That's MARKEL insurance.com/locked-on. Markel, insuring America's small businesses since 1930. Insurance carrier coverages, dividends, and services availability may be varied by state. And Markel is a registered trademark of Markel Group Incorporated. Also want to give a shout out to FanDuel.com, the official sports betting partner of not only the NFL, but of all things college. So if you have a chance, go over to FanDuel.com and be able to use promo code Locked On College. And I know that they have so many great things when it comes to the spreads and the over-unders and everything. They got it all going on over there. So be sure to check them out today at FanDuel.com. Be sure to go to /LockedOn to get started and start betting and everything, because who knows, maybe you're going to start betting the Rents, the Razorbacks, and do it pretty quick, fast, and in a hurry in that regard too. So check it out again, FanDuel.com/LockedOn.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Again, there's so many comments coming in. Arkansas sitting at 2-1. They got LSU at night, 6 o'clock in Baton Rouge. I mean, how do you feel good about it? Like that's the kind of the thing that I'm struggling with. Is like how am I supposed to feel good about that? About them going into LSU, going into Baton Rouge. I mean, anything can happen. We all know that. But how am I supposed to sit here and with a straight face be like, you know what? It's gonna be okay. Going to be okay. Arkansas is going to be good. I can't do it. I can't do it in clear consciousness. We have a lot more other comments coming in. Again, appreciate everybody watching in and listening, and this is awesome. I want to try to do this more often if I can. I know schedules always pop up, but on Sundays, I feel like a Razorback devotional is needed, especially after a loss like that. So appreciate everybody watching in and everything. Let's see. This seems real. Nasty, sour diesel all day. Our running backs run like scared little girls. I've never seen running backs that chop their feet indecisively with no purpose. I think that's I think that's a combination again of not feeling confident, not feeling confident in the offensive line of where they're at, not feeling confident in the holes that they're going to try to hit. There was times I saw 2 or 3 plays where I felt like the running backs did not hit the correct holes when it was wide open, and they maybe got a few yards, but not near as much as it should have been. So. Leon says the offense is more complicated than the Brawl's offense. The more you have to think, the more things can go wrong. I mean, maybe. I know that there is some more complexities, but I feel like it was always more so with the quarterback situation. At least that's the way it should be. And if it is too complicated, if your team is struggling, then you are the one that has to adjust. You are the one that has to make the difference. Like if you're going through practices and fall camps in these games and the offense is struggling to pick up, then I think that's a you problem. Adjust to who you have and adjust to what you have. Terry says, do you believe the season is already over with and we lose about 4 more in a row? No, I'm not going to say the season's over with already. I'm not to that point. It's just hard for me to feel good about any game left on the schedule in SEC play. I'm not saying Arkansas is going to go winless in the SEC, but I mean, how do you this next 4 games? Like, do you feel good about winning any of them right now? I don't. Now they beat LSU on the road. Well, okay, then that changes things. But season's not over. I want to see what Sam Pittman and this team's capable of the rest of the year. And if they go through the year, ends up being a bad year, then I guess we got to start thinking about some things. But right now, though, the season's not over. It's 3 games in. Come on now. Brooks says, we screwed our defense by our offense not being able to execute properly. Penalties, bad yardage situations, not converting on 4th and 3rd and 4th downs felt bad for them. Yeah, again, that 38 points is not on the defense. The defense only gave up. Let me make sure I read the stat correctly because it is so absurd. The defense gave up a total of 281 yards. 281 yards. They got a fumble. They recovered a fumble. They're just put in bad situations. The defense did their part. Defense did their job. Let's see. Steve-O says, why even go for it on 4th down when you're up by 10? Punt the ball and our defense has the offense on lockdown with a field goal. Like, again, I'm at this point, I never want to see him go for a 4th down and 1, unless this situation calls for it where it's at the end of the game and you got to make a play. But if you're in the middle of the field and it's in the middle of the game and where they have a lead or whatever, and you need 1 yard, and I don't want to see you out there. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it happening. Don't want to see it happen. And a beer talk says, still baffled why Enos was given another chance here. Either way, 31 points should be enough to beat BY freaking you. Yeah, that's my thing. Arkansas scored 31 points. So it's not like the offense was trash. It wasn't trash. Again, they scored 31 points. Granted, 1 was a punt return. So you scored technically 3 touchdowns on offense. I think A.J. Green had 2, and then he's had a toss from KJ. It's not great, but it wasn't trash. Josh says, guys, we failed to convert 4th and short 2 times. Then we shanked 2 punts. Let them have 4 extra drives. Basically, that was the whole game. Yeah, pretty much. And BYU is a good enough team and well-coached enough team to make a run at it and take advantage of it. Jerry says, why would an AD yoke our university to a coach who already said this was his last stint? I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with it. Like, you don't think Sam Pittman's not trying? Like, say what you want about the guy. If he's not the guy, that's one thing. But it's not like he's other coaches that were here at the university and just collected their check, got drunk and fat and happy, and just chilled out and didn't care about anything else. Just give me my check and get me out of here. Like, say what you want about Sam Pittman, but I'm never going to question his effort. He's trying to win. He hates winning. He's as disappointed as anybody. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to go into that as far as him. It's just his last season. The BYU game was one off flat offense game. It would be one thing. If I can read that. We have had nothing but flat games. Yeah, it's been flat. It's been gross. It's been trash. So, Bumble says, put Latham back at guard where he belongs. Absolutely. I don't care if you have to put in. I'd rather see Latham at guard than put in, then to move him over there where he struggles and then have somebody at the guard position where he was at where they struggle too. How do you not have a tackle that is better than having to move one of your better offensive linemen over to that position where they're out of position? Like, that's trash. That can't happen. Almost says again, we held them under 300 yards, 80 yards rushing. Defense did not suck. Yeah, I know. Defense, I have no problem with the defense. Anybody that says that the defense was a major problem, then like I said, you're just trolling. Not saying it was perfect, but come on. If I told you before the game that Arkansas was going to hold BYU to, what was it again? 281 yards total offense in this game. And Arkansas was going to have 424 yards of offense in this game. None of you would say like, oh, the defense was trashy. It was bad. Or like, every one of you would think the defense was great, as would I, as I did. Again, I wasn't saying it was perfect, but they were far and away the least of the problems in this one. far and away. Arkansas controlled the clock. Arkansas scored a 3 of 4 red zone possessions. I mean, you got Arkansas defense got 4 sacks on the game. Also missing a field goal too. That was disappointing. Cam Little for 4. I know it was a 49-yard field goal, but hitting the upright, man, that's rough. Let's see. Also, from Scott says Sam is simply not a good game coach. I mean, after this, yeah. I mean, it's tough to go through and say again, I'm not off the Sam Pittman train, but it's just tough to really look at this game and say, hey, right decisions were being made, right calls were being made. I'm not feeling that. IG Farben says BYU only had 281 yards because their drive started at the Arkansas 40-yard line. Pretty much that. But that was an offensive problem. It's an offensive problem. You can't go for it on 4th down and then miss it and then give it have all the momentum shift. You had the strip fumble. You had the interception. You had the shank punts. It's like that's an offensive problem. So Caden says Cam didn't get a redo like BYU did. Yeah, that was also a big play. I didn't make the difference in the game, but they ran a fake field goal against Arkansas, and Arkansas stopped it. But then they blew the whistle dead, and they got another chance at it because it was a delay of game, and they ended up making the field goal. So, yeah, it's not like an official's problem. Like, I'm not blaming the official. I'm just saying that was dumb. That was just really dumb. Mark says, analytics says when you need 1 yard, you go under center with a 255-pound quarterback in the center who squats a ton. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling too, man. That's how I'm feeling too about it. Almost how do they win with less yardage, turnovers, and short fields? Defense did their job. Offense lost the game. I agree with you. Like I said, the defense, I don't have many complaints about. I mean, there was a couple. They had the breakdown on that trick play. I think it was the first touchdown of the game for BYU. It's wide open. There's a breakdown. But it was also BYU making plays. Like BYU, that last touchdown catch they made, what was that guy's name? Was it Roberts, I believe is his name? Like that catch was insane in the end zone. Like it was just great play by him. Also, Vids for me says, I still think BYU had time to sub when they didn't cover Armstrong. Total BS. Yeah, that was again, the officiating had some gaffes. I didn't like that either. But again, it's kind of like the defense. Way, way, way down the list of why Arkansas lost this game. I'm not blaming the officiating for this game, but it wasn't great. Instantaneous takes BYU's punt 88 yards for a touchdown. That's right, Charles. He did. And that was like the only time you saw him. Returning punts, and then he had 1 catch for 5 yards. He's targeted once. I'm not trying to make comparisons, but imagine if that was Joe Adams or Jarius Wright, and you targeted him once. And you're needing explosive offensive plays. You need to get out of your hands quick. How do you not want to run a screen pass for him or something? How do you not do that? 38 points is not an offensive problem. Sauer, listen, I know you are hating on the defense and you think that's the reason why, but again, the defense is not the problem here. If you watch the game, you'd understand it. Again, I'm not saying it was perfect, but the offense was a much bigger issue here than defense. I don't know how you can't see that. Devo says we may beat Mississippi State and Florida. I don't know if Florida beat Tennessee. I ain't going to put money on that one. Mississippi State, maybe at that point. But and Missouri beat Kansas State with a 61-yard field goal. Right now, if I'm doing my power rankings in the SEC West, I probably have Arkansas just slightly above Mississippi State. But everybody else has had better wins. Everyone else is, and again, just in the SEC West, or at least looked better at times. Alabama, maybe you could say. That hasn't looked good, but it's still Alabama. Auburn, maybe. But they went on the road and beat Cal, so there's that. All right, we'll just read a couple more here, and then we'll get out of here because I was trying to make it just about 45 minutes here. Sean says, why did Enos do play action on 3rd and 18 with 20 seconds left and no timeouts? Not one person in the stadium fell for it. Yeah, I didn't understand that either. Like, I'd like to see more 5 wide. But everyone's like, oh, what, you couldn't block for KJ. True. But if you get the ball out quickly, fast, I wanted to see them take shots downfield more, but the offensive line wasn't blocking long enough for KJ to really take some shots downfield as long as they wanted to. Josh says, because sucks. We found out on this game. I don't think he sucks. Again, the play calling I didn't have many issues with. I'm not saying it was great, but like, it doesn't matter what your play calling is if your offensive line can't block. Like, it doesn't matter. Let's see. Brittany says, most Arkansas game ever. Blew multiple leads, stupid play calling, and same amount of penalties. Boneheaded turnovers, 0 quarterback protection. Hope we all got out of our system in one game. Good grief. Brittany, I hope so too. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I hope so too. Because I don't want this season to be one that just ends so quickly. And I kind of want to have some good moments in this one too. Because as I talked about, I'm a Jets fan, and it's already, my season's over for them. So give me something. Give me something to make it work. All right, last one. Joffrey says, feel bad for the kids and players mostly. Those guys do work hard, and they just fell short. Yeah. I mean, the effort's there. They're playing hard. So, again, we criticize a lot, and rightfully so, and justify. But I'm all for these guys still giving the effort out there because they are doing that. I said last one, but I'll make the grade too. Everything's still ahead of us. We have 0 losses in conference play. Hopefully Sam Pittman and co can get some things figured out. The whole state questioning the product on the field. Yeah, because if they don't, it's already been bad, but people are really going to start jumping ship quick. A lot of you already have, as I see. But if they get go on the road to LSU and get blown out 49-10 or something like that, yeah, then things are going to start going south pretty quickly. But either way, hey, folks, great. I really appreciate all of you watching in, all the comments, and appreciate you all, even the ones that I didn't agree with. Always appreciate the listeners and the callers and the subscribers here. I'm going to try to do this every Saturday, or Sunday, I should say. And timing, we'll see how it does, but I'll always keep you updated on it. But appreciate all of you. If you haven't subscribed to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, please subscribe to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast on YouTube. You can also download the Locked On Razorbacks podcast wherever podcasts are found. Subscribe that way too. Ever need to do it, just I appreciate all of you and all the interaction and everybody commenting and having some fun. I know it sucks. It sucks. But, I'm almost used to it as a Razorback fan. It's kind of is what it is. But, who knows? Maybe the night is darkest just before the dawn, as the Dark Knight once said, but still. Appreciate everybody. Have a good rest of your Sunday. This will be part of the Monday podcast, and we'll keep it moving on throughout the rest of the week and do some LSU previewing as well. So appreciate all of you. Even though they lost, still Woo Pig and Hogs by 90.